Welcome, everybody, to the Wrestling Related Podcast, where the topics are related to wrestling. We're related to each other. I'm Josh.
I'm Dustin.
And Corey is absent at the moment, but we're going to carry on the show without him. And hey, for future episodes, who knows what variation you're going to get of the siblings. Okay.
It's like this the fabulous Freebirds.
Right, yeah. Anybody can tag in and out at any time. Right. This weekend...
Yes.
We had double pay-per-views. We had a pay-per-view and a PLE. We had King and Queen of the Ring in Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. And that was a Saturday, like noon, my time. Mm-hmm. And then on Sunday, AEW Double or Nothing. I like the name Double or Nothing. I don't like saying AEW Double or Nothing.
It's a tongue twister. It's a Dr. Seuss right there. Yep.
And we made our predictions. We had most of the predictions in, and I'll give WWE credit on this. They had all but one of their matches announced when we recorded last week.
Right.
I think it was Friday night is when they announced that the women's tag match that was supposed to come in. And so
the Jade Cargill one. Yep.
We hopped in on our group Instagram chat and we wound up commenting our predictions in there. So I got those jotted down. And then AEW, on the other hand, they did what they typically do. And with a show that already had 10 matches on it, they added 3 more. Because I think the ones that we had to add was the 6-man tag match between the Bang Bang Gang and Death Triangle.
Yep.
And then they added in Thunder Rosa versus Deonna Purrazzo on the buy-in. And then they added in the Cage of Agony versus the Acclaimed.
Correct.
So it was up to the wire that we're texting back and forth.
But we got the predictions in.
We got all the predictions in. And I think we'll go through some of those predictions. But the first thing I want to do things completely out of order.
Okay.
Out of the PLE and the PPV, what was your favorite match or moment of all of that?
Ooh.
It can be a favorite match. It can be a favorite moment. Actually, let's do it 2 ways. What was the favorite match or moment from King and Queen of the Ring, and the favorite match or moment from Double or Nothing?
Okay, give me a quick rundown of the matches just to refresh my memory, because it's been a long 4 days.
We'll start with that one first. For King and Queen of the Ring, we had Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair in the pre-show against Candice LeRae and Lindy Hartwell. Right. We also had Becky Lynch defending the title against Liv Morgan. We had the Intercontinental, Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable and Bronson Reed. We had the Queen of the Ring, Lyra Valkyria versus Nia Jax. And we had King of the Ring, Gunther versus Randy Orton. And then we had Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul. That was King and Queen of the Ring.
Okay, so for best match or best moment, which do you want?
Match or moment, whichever. If it was a match like, what was the one thing that stood out the most to you that it's like, you know what, that made my night, that made the pay-per-view worth it all? Whether it's a full match or just a moment.
Surprisingly, I loved the Cody Logan match. I thought that was a
good
really
match.
Good match. I think that was probably the match of the night for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, favorite moment was just the missed kip up from Jade Cargill, but that's at the finish. That's just haters gonna hate, I guess, right? That's probably what Taylor always says.
My favorite moment shocked me, because I honestly thought these words would never come out of my mouth, that my favorite moment would be from Nia Jax. But the finish of that match was the greatest thing ever.
Let's give a shout out to how tough that little Irish lady is.
Oh yeah. Lyra, and if you're going to take that, and she took it all abdomen, all gut, so not up on we don't have to worry about skipping a heartbeat. We don't have to worry about busting ribs. It's all on the gut.
Oh, yes, you do.
Well.
Oh, yes, you do. You can bust some ribs very easily. I flinched and hurt on that one.
Oh, I flinched and hurt.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, time, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, of all the people that we have seen do that move, going back to Yoko doing it, why have I never seen anybody do that? Like, yes, Yoko did feet kicked out and just drop on you.
Right.
And always made me cringe. Nia, to her credit, she does try to protect the people a little bit more, and she kind of slows the impact. That one, there was no slowing the impact, and she just ate it all. And yet, that is one of the most believable finishes that I've ever seen.
Definitely was. It was very impressive.
Yeah.
It was a decent match for Nia Jax. I thought it was a decent match. It wasn't the best thing I've ever seen her in, but It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen her in.
Correct. Okay, let's jump into Double or Nothing real quick. What was the highlight moment? Your maybe not necessarily the highlight, but what is the thing that was the moment or the match of the night for you?
Oh, the moment arguably is the return of MJF.
Okay.
Arguably, I mean, that's, yes, there's the Adam Copeland, there's the Gangrel, there's, Adam Copeland, Adam Cole baby coming out originally, all of that's great, but his new look, his new / old attitude coming back.
Right.
I could have done without a lot of the language. He was very vulgar on it, but
yes.
That's
much more
MJF,
profane
though.
Than I would prefer.
But that's MJF too. That's the way he's always been.
It's MJF. I popped huge.
And
I would.
Looks great too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. He looks like every single dollar that they are paying him, and then some. And the only other moment that might have been up there was a negative moment for me. And it was hanging Darby Allin upside down. And the main reason it was a negative moment for me, they had just had Martha Hart coming out and talking about how this is celebrating 25 years of philanthropy in Owen's name. And it's the weekend, 25 years after Owen and his tragic death in the ring, from a cable suspended in the ring. And now you're going to... Now, they didn't pull him up. He was 3 feet, 4 feet off the ground, whatever. Okay, fine.
Right.
But just the fact that they were bringing that down, and I thought what they were going to do, it was like wrong time, wrong place, wrong show, wrong weekend. It's just like, do any other weekend of the year. Not this weekend, not after you've made that announcement. And that would be the biggest, I think, downfall that I had out of that show. But it was, and that almost overtook it, just because of the way that it was going. I did get a kick out of seeing Jack Perry on fire.
That was funny.
It was like, why? But at the same time, fair enough.
Okay, so in the past, the Young Bucks have used the tack-filled shoes before.
Yeah.
Back when they did the Death Triangle in a cage match one time, and and I thought that was very innovative and everything. They brought them back, but when they super kicked Darby, I think Darby ate it, and I think one of them tacks kind of slid because it was a matter of seconds, and there was like dripping.
Yeah,
it was he ate that one 100%.
There was a lot of blood dripping and close calls at that show, and I think We've probably mentioned it. I know a lot of wrestling fans, especially those that maybe have some insider knowledge doing podcasting and stuff, they've mentioned when it comes to the way that AEW does it, where they get some of these real extreme moments, they're flying really close to the sun. Right. And if you keep flying close to the sun, you're going to get burned. And this show, it was really close a few times. And I'm
but
glad
Darby's always flying too close.
Yeah. I'm glad everybody was fairly fine.
Mm-hmm.
Except for, did you hear the latest about Adam Copeland?
No, and I didn't watch the media scrum either, so I can't say that I.
So there were rumors yesterday going around on the internet, because this is Tuesday, rumors yesterday, and Adam Copeland came out on, I think it was on his Twitter or his X page, and he had basically said, yep, he made a mistake. He feels good. He's felt better than he's felt in like 20 years. And that means that sometimes he tries to do things that he probably shouldn't do.
Is this the top of the cage jump?
And the top of the cage, like when he hit, I was like, no, not your knees.
Yep.
He fractured his tibia, and it will require surgery.
Does not spread. He hit so hard when he hit.
He hit so hard. Because, I saw him up there, and I was like, is he going to do a splash? And I was like, wait, can he even do a splash off the top? I mean, Christian's the one that always did the splash.
He'd have been better off doing a splash.
And then he like just dropped straight down, and I was like, no, your knees. Because that was what I was thinking, especially the way that he hit. But I guess he said it was a fractured tibia. I don't know what that means. Because it's like, this is an exciting storyline they got, but I don't know what it means.
They're going to have to vacate it. Because surgery that you're looking at least 3 months.
Yeah. I mean, and okay, so do you vacate it? Or, I mean, if we think back to his promo, he said, hey, if he loses, he has to kneel to the House of Black. But if he wins, then they might have to kneel to the House of Blood. Although then it said like Brood on his, which I did get a kick out of.
Right.
Brood. Maybe it'll be the House of the Brood or House of Brood or something. Could it be a case that he goes ahead and says, you know what? I'm not going to vacate it. I am going to defend it in like the House Rules match, which is basically anything goes and you waive everything. So then we don't have to worry about the doctors. But then he just chooses Malachi Black, and do the finger poke of doom, where he just basically lays down, pin me, and you're going to hold this belt until I'm ready. And then he can keep coming and showing up. And then kind of like how we would like Rhea to be right now. Like, okay, she's out, she's injured. I get that, but keep her on TV.
Correct.
And what they've been building up with Adam Copeland, and with the House of Black, it's like, keep them on TV. I want to see what is going to happen. I want to see where this is going to go. You can't, you put too much into this to just let this injury
stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't have it derail the whole storyline, because, you've worked hard for this, and it's a great storyline. I think people are getting a kick out of it. I think honestly, the House of Black is over with fans right now.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that does not like the House of Black. And that's strictly their work. I mean, when Brody King came in, I'm a big King Kong Bruiser Brody fan. Always have been.
Yeah.
And when Brody King first came in, I hadn't heard of him. I did a little research and saw who he was, and I started watching him, and I watched a few of his matches, and he was trying to intimidate or imitate Bruiser Brody. And I thought, I'm not going to like this guy.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I don't even remember what match it was, but there was like one match. I'm like, wow, this guy can actually work.
Yeah.
And he can work well. And, Buddy Matthews, I loved him back in the WWE, when
he's just especially so
like when him and Pac at the time, who was, I'm trying to think of what his name was back then. Neville. They had a little feud going, which was really good. They would I was a huge Buddy Murphy fan. Then Buddy Matthews came around. And Malachi Black, that's Malachi Black.
He's just
so good.
Yeah, he's so good.
I want to touch on Malachi Black real quick.
Yeah.
We haven't talked since the Malachi Black versus O'Reilly.
Right.
Was it Friday night or Collision on Saturday? One of the two.
Whichever it was, yeah.
They work that match so good because both are, martial artists, kickboxers. They both have that type of training, and they work that match perfectly for those styles of wrestlers.
Agreed.
In my opinion, it was so good, so good. Need more of that.
Agreed. Yeah, that's the stuff like that is what I believe they should be doing, and they should have been doing with people like, I can't even think of her name right now. MMA, Shayna Baszler.
Yeah.
Shayna Baszler or Marina Shafir even. Like, that's the kind of stuff they should be doing. The hard part is when you don't have somebody that is fairly proficient in that, it's hard for them to even work that style and sell. At the same time, you look at a lot of like the European wrestlers, they do a lot of that catch as catch can wrestling, and that is hard for the traditional, North American style. Lucha Libre is hard for most people. The Japanese Puroresu is hard for most people. Until you've actually trained in that and you've learned a little bit of it, then you can adapt to it. I wish that more wrestlers would recognize, with the Kyle O'Reilly, the Malachi Black, the Shayna Baszler, even the Ronda Rousey when she was in there, recognize that this is not a limitation or weakness, but this is a strength that they've got, and I need to figure out how to elevate that and maximize it to look good. What Malachi and Kyle O'Reilly did was beautiful.
But I think the problem arises when you have somebody who's been in MMA or, kickboxing or UFC fighter or even Olympic wrestlers like, Gable and Angle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You you have that in your repertoire. How to do that, but you still have to learn the pro wrestling aspect of any type of event. If you can't fully grasp the pro wrestling aspect, then you're going to have a hard time combining the two.
Correct.
And that's where people like Marina Shafir, in my opinion, has a hard time because she relies too much on the MMA background. And I don't think she has fully grasped the world of wrestling yet.
Yeah, I think what they've done in that, and I'll put a lot of this on the backstage. What do they call them? They're not the writers, but they're like the producers or whatever. Those are the ones where I would put more of the blame on, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, well, this is the strength that she has. Agreed. So let's just focus on this. Disagree. Elevate it, show it off, let it be the highlight of it, but do what you do when you pull in somebody that is completely green in the business. You teach them a few basics, and it's basic moves and holds, and you drill that into them to where it becomes very fundamental, and then here's what you have. This is your base, this is your foundation, we're always going to run back to this, and then we're going to sprinkle in the stuff that you're naturally gifted at to be that extra sauce. They did that for a while with Ronda Rousey. Like when she first came in, it was like they were trying to just do MMA stuff. But once she started to train a little bit, and it was with like Brian Kendrick, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
And it was just getting in these basics that she had. Like she was in that, wasn't it a WrestleMania main event or something where it was her and Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch maybe? Like
in a three-way, yeah. Yep.
And it was like, that was a good match. And granted, you can have Charlotte and Becky that are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but yet they still allowed her to come in and do some of the basic stuff, tackle, drop down, hip toss, body slam, the basic stuff that everybody's going to recognize. Oh, she can actually wrestle, be able to throw on a chin lock and work in a hammer lock and an arm bar, which she's already comfortable with, but then let her throw in some of the striking in the MMA.
And then if you're a company and you have the people that don't necessarily have another type of style and they are strictly wrestling, but yet they still can't capture, how to work, how to do an arm bar, how to do a hip toss, a headlock takeover, anything like that, then just kick them over to the other federation like AEW did. So,
man,
I am hard on her, aren't I?
You are very, and
Jade,
maybe that's the move that she needed, and maybe something will improve.
I just pray Finley can work with her a little bit and help her.
All right, going back to King and Queen of the Ring, let's do our little thumb ratings on this. Start off with that match. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill against LeRae and Hartwell.
Anybody that thought LeRae and Hartwell was going to win it, I mean, come on.
No.
Come on. This is to get a win under the belt of Cargill and Belair. This is all this was.
Yep.
Get them on there.
I think it was a way of basically just getting a few more ladies on the card. And they're a big draw. Let's go ahead and put them on there. I honestly think it was more just to get Bianca Belair on there, who over the years, she's won me over. She's better than I used to give her credit for.
Yep. She's improved.
That match, though, I don't remember any of it.
I remember the mess up at the finish, but the kip up, but that's all I remember.
You mentioned that. I don't remember any of it. I'm wondering if I even watched it, which I guess by that rationale, I'd have to give that one a Batista.
That's definitely Batista.
It just couldn't. Now then we had Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan for the actual show coming out, and Liv Morgan.
Are we doing match, or are we doing what we thought of the outcome? Because I obviously lost that one.
Well, yes, you lost that one. Well, Corey lost that one too. You both thought that Becky was going to win it, and you guys put up a good argument. You put up a good argument. I think I even said it that, obviously they're building towards Liv versus Rhea. You saw it, Corey saw it, I saw it. I think everybody sees it's coming. It was just, when are they going to do that? And the only other thing I don't think I mentioned then in the recording, and part of it was because I was so convinced that she was going to win that I didn't want to give away all of my thought process, but Becky's contract. While Seth has re-signed, Becky hasn't yet.
Right.
And I knew it was coming up in June, so it's like, unless she has re-signed and we just don't know about it, I couldn't foresee that happening. Like, they're just not going to keep the belt on her. So as far as the match goes, I think it was an Orange Cassidy match. As far as the outcome, I am so happy that Liv has the belt.
I actually am too, and I like the direction they're going with this, and even pushing forward to talking about Raw last night with the whole cage match and the whole. I was wondering, like, okay, what are they going to do? Well, they're playing in Dom into this, and he's helping Becky, but yet accidentally helping Liv, type of thing.
Right.
And then I would think I told you I just got done watching it because I watched it late, but I got done watching it and they actually cut off before Liv Morgan laid the old lip lock onto Dom.
Right.
Which I think is hilarious because that's the direction that Hunter's taken this to turn around and make the storyline with Rhea and Liv. I'm liking it. I'm digging that. That's definitely a hacksaw for me. The match is more of a
storyline is a hacksaw.
Yes.
The match itself was kind of an Orange Cassidy. The other part that I remember Corey and I were talking about this Sunday because he came over to watch Double or Nothing, which, by the way, first time in I think 20 plus years that he has been to somebody's house to watch a wrestling pay-per-view.
Wow.
But you think about it, it's like, when was the last time you went to somebody's house to watch a wrestling pay-per-view? Probably before the WWE Network came out.
It's at least 15 years because I've been down here for 15 years. So
right? And it was like, back, high school and college for me, we did quite a bit.
All the time.
But anyways, he and I were talking about that, and, they are in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
And from what I was hearing, several of the people there were having a hard time staying hydrated, and it was very hot and humid. So with that, it's going to be a little bit of fatigue in how they're going to perform as well. I thought that was most evident to me in the King of the Ring match. Randy just looked gassed the entire time.
Yeah, he looked blown up.
Because it was just. But as far as like Becky and Liv match, Orange Cassidy storyline, definite hacksaw. Sami Zayn, Chad Gable, Bronson Reed.
I enjoyed the match. It ended kind of like I expected. I knew that Otis was going to have something to do with it. I didn't expect Chad Gable to win it. I actually thought he was going to take a swerve and Bronson was going to take it. But I'll give it a hacksaw. I enjoyed it. I mean,
I thought it was. It's in the verge of a hacksaw and an Orange Cassidy for me.
Like in between.
A very energetic Orange Cassidy. So it's not super lazy. He's got a little bit more. Is probably where it's at. Now the storyline, bring that into last night. The storyline with Otis, Chad Gable, Sami Zayn. Otis, what are you doing? It's just like...
I was hoping so much when he said Otis grabbed the rope and he had his belt off and he was going to whip him. I was hoping so much, let him do it. Or when, what's her name? Maxine grabbed his arm. I'm like, yes. Have Gable grab her and then Otis snaps.
Yeah.
But
and
I was
part
looking,
of me is rooting for Tozawa to step in too.
Right.
Because
I was expecting this strap match coming up. Like SummerSlam strap match between Otis and Gable.
That would
have been good.
That could be. Yeah, it's fun. It was a good match. Corey and I picked up the win on the correct prediction on that. That Queen of the Ring, we briefly talked about that. That was an Orange Cassidy for me, but a somewhat enthusiastic Orange Cassidy based on it. I liked that match better than I liked Becky and Liv. It was...
I can see that.
It was shorter. It was more enjoyable to watch. It was a predictable finish. I mean, we all picked Nia was going to win that. I think that was obvious. But yeah, it wasn't bad. Like, have I seen Nia in better matches? Yes. Have I seen Lyra Valkyria in better matches? Yeah. But I wouldn't say it was a bad match.
No.
I was pleasantly surprised and a little caught off guard. And so, yeah, I enjoyed that. I also think that Nia is going to... Her and Bayley could be fun. That can be a fun one to see how that plays out.
I hope so.
Gunther versus Randy Orton. I took a loss on this one because I was thoroughly convinced and still am convinced that we're going to get a Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes at around SummerSlam time. That just feels like where they're going. I feel like Cody and Randy have to have that match.
Mm-hmm.
Am I disappointed in Gunther being king? No. But it'll be interesting to see what actually transpires. Because
is he really king?
Right. Is he really king of the ring when Randy's shoulder was obviously up for 2 of those 3 seconds?
So the funny thing is, you watch the angle that they had when they first counted the 3, you could definitely see his shoulders up. Okay, boom, your shoulders up. But then when they showed that opposite angle from the other side,
right,
I'm like, his one shoulder was barely down. It was like his entire back was up except for the one shoulder.
Yeah, it's like neither shoulder blade was down. It was like he was on the point of the shoulder on one side, and that was it.
And then you fast forward and you hear, Paul Levesque, Triple H, make a comment afterwards, and he said, it was obvious. We all saw it. Randy's shoulder was up.
Yep.
So would I like to see another rematch coming up real soon between, Gunther and Randy Orton? Absolutely. And I think Randy Orton deserves it.
Yeah.
Now, like we said on the podcast last week, it was obvious. The very first chop on Randy.
Oh, he does
as
not
soon
like
as
chops.
he took it, he hated it.
He does
and by the
not
third
like
one,
chops.
he was throwing a few receipts, a little bit stiffer than normal.
Yep.
But I thought it was a decent match. I enjoyed it.
It was a good match. Though
they were both a little slower than normal.
That's where I think some of the heat and the exhaustion came in. That's also, oddly, I like the Queen of the Ring final more than the King of the Ring final.
Correct.
It was just,
I can see that.
And I mean, it's an Orange Cassidy for me. It was good. I wasn't disappointed in it. It was just, it was what it was.
So that's now, 5 matches. That only leaves one more, right?
Correct. Now, here's the other thing with the way that it could be going with Randy Orton. Here's just an early prediction. I think what we probably will have is a Clash of the Castle. We're probably going to have Gunther versus Randy Orton in a rematch. I don't think they're going to take that out to Money in the Bank, although they could. But I kind of feel like it might be more of a Clash at the Castle match, especially with Gunther and them being in Europe.
Do you think it'll be for the King? Or do you think they'll say, no, he's already won the King of the Ring?
I think they're going to say he's already King of the Ring, and he already gets his title shot because the ref's decision is final. So it will be him against Damian Priest. But if Randy Orton can win and beat the King of the Ring, then Randy Orton also gets a shot at SummerSlam against Cody.
Oh, that would be so good.
And then I think you've kind of got those... You're able to use both of them in there. So it's like they both take a win, they both take a loss. It's one of the best ways of protecting both Gunther and Randy and setting a big build-up.
So the question is, do you think that whole thing was planned?
Oh, 100%.
To end that way?
Okay. 100%. They do not... I mean, hey, we've had some pretty incompetent refs in the past. They've never been that blatantly incompetent.
All right.
Like, when I saw that right out the gate, I was like, that's obvious. And then all of a sudden, they counted the pin. I was like, what are you guys getting at? Like, what's the work here? How are we going with this? And then when Triple H made his comment, it was like, oh, okay, I can see where you're going now.
Yep.
Because at that point, it was like, you don't know who you're going to have at SummerSlam. Now, at SummerSlam, I think they're wanting probably Drew versus CM Punk. I think that's what they're going to try to have for SummerSlam. So then at that point, it's like, okay, well, who's Gunther going to face? They're already starting to turn Damian as a face rather than a heel. So Gunther up against him makes sense. Cody, he could go against Randy Orton and it can be a face-face match and it's not that big of a deal because the crowd's just going to cheer for it because Cody right now is that uber babyface that everybody loves. And nobody's going to really boo Randy, even if he goes all like legend killer on him and like pulls out the punt and stuff. You might get a few boos, but people will still enjoy it. And Randy's also the type of guy that can weave in and out because he's the Viper.
Yeah.
Do what I want to do. I can be a face 1 minute and a heel the next minute. I mean, look at the 3-way match that they had at Backlash, where he's like turning on Kevin Owens.
And then they're right back to being buddies again.
Correct. So, yeah, if anybody can do that, it makes sense for Randy. Yeah, and then that led us to Cody Rhodes and Logan Paul. And I agree. That was the match of the night. I mean...
Sorry, got to get my thumb in there.
That one was a good one.
Hacksaw.
Definite hacksaw. It was on the verge of 2 hacksaws for me. A double thumber. There were a couple things that I saw in there that were really cool. One of them, I know Logan likes that top rope frog splash to the table and to make that a viral moment. Yes, he did the one where it was a selfie the whole way. That was cool. This one to have a drone like
that was
flying around him, that was a cool perspective. Me doing video stuff, I get a kick out of those little visual elements that they toy around with. And credit to Logan Paul, he posted, I think it was on Instagram or something, and showed a text message that he sent to Triple H a year ago asking if they could do that. And they've just been trying to find a venue to be able to allow them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was like they've had a couple other pay-per-views where he's been at, And then they check with the venue and they're like, no, you can't fly drones inside. And I was like, okay, well, we can't do that. And I think they were thinking it was going to have to be a stadium show, an outdoor.
Right.
But apparently Saudi was like, go ahead. It was cool. That, and then Cody busting out the vertebreaker on him.
Which was an illegal move in WWE last time I checked.
Last I knew it was. They banned it. Last I knew it was.
Wow. It's a new era.
It's definitely a new era. Yeah, there's a bunch of those moves that, and that one, I understood why it should be.
Absolutely.
You know, that's up there with that Tiger Driver 98 or whatever. Yeah. You're landing them intentionally high on the neck and shoulders. Yep. Now, Cody did it pretty safe. From the angles that I saw, looks like Logan took a fairly safe bump. It was a high back shoulder bump. But it was still impressive to see it.
Yeah.
All around good. And for the King and Queen of the Ring, I get that the UK, all of our wrestling fans on the other side of the pond, they're used to these midday shows and PLEs. I'm not used to them. You know, it's
I watched it Saturday night.
Yeah. So it's difficult to try to get into. It's also difficult to try to stay off the internet when you can't watch it live, to make sure you don't get any spoilers.
So in the past, we've always had a PLE, and then we have a week before another pay-per-view or another PLE or whatever it is. So we always had the champion crowned or given the title to or whatever at the end of one of the PLEs or pay-per-views.
Yep.
Are we doing that this one, or are we just going for the whole weekend?
Oh, no, it was after each one. We had mentioned that, which is why I sent you guys a message Sunday morning, and I am the king of predictions. So, because
I have been dethroned.
You were officially dethroned. You and Corey both got 4 correct. I wound up getting 5 correct. So 5 out of 6 ain't bad.
I missed it by that much.
Yep. And the one that I missed was Randy.
Right.
And I was taking this was a Hail Mary type of throw. If it was going to pan out that, but
yep.
Fly too close to the sun. Is it right?
Yeah, exactly.
AEW Double or Nothing. We started off with the buy-in. It was Thunder Rosa versus Deonna Purrazzo. You and I had picked Thunder Rosa to win. Corey had picked Deonna Purrazzo to win. Corey started off the night in the lead, and he correctly predicted that Deonna Purrazzo would win. You and I were wrong.
I'm a Batista on that one. I didn't like that.
Yeah,
match at all.
It was a Batista match for me too.
It was horrible.
Did not like it.
Both ladies can wrestle. That was not it. They missed it on that one.
Yeah. Yep. I didn't enjoy the match. They could have left it off the card.
Yep.
This is one of those things where sometimes I think maybe WWE has the edge on AEW. They both have a bloated roster. But WWE is not willing to put people on a show just to put people on a show. They'll leave them off.
So for me, that match, and I'm not saying this to insult one show or another show or anything like that, but you'll understand when I say that match should have stayed on Rampage.
Yes.
That was a Rampage match. It definitely wasn't Dynamite, and even Collision starting to step up there. So correct. I wouldn't even put it on Collision. I would have left it on Rampage.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't pay-per-view quality match. I mean, and that's the thing for me when it comes to a pay-per-view. Now, granted, it was the buy-in, so it was the free show. It felt like it was a match that belongs on YouTube that I would never have to pay for.
Correct.
Like that's where it was at. Because the buy-in is on YouTube. You can watch it.
What was the YouTube for the AEW YouTube show that they had with
Dark or Dark. Elevation? They had two of them.
That was a dark match. That should have stayed a dark match.
Yes. It wasn't good. Then they had the Acclaimed versus the Cage of Agony. You and I correctly predicted that the Acclaim would win that one. Corey took a wild stab hoping that Cage of Agony would win. I think you and I probably both wanted Cage of Agony to win.
Yep.
But they just, if it was a month more, the way they're building them up, if they'd given them 1 month more, it would have been a much harder prediction for me.
The whole match in general, I'm giving it a double Batista as well. I got to get my camera straightened up here. Double Batista.
Okay.
Double Batista. Oh, there I am. Double Batista. But I will say I am happy to see Billy get the win on that one.
Yes.
Billy took the pinfall. That's the only questionable thing that I might have went to an Orange Cassidy, but it was still a double Batista. I think Max Caster, they're giving him too much leeway on his raps, and they're getting so blatantly vulgar, and you know, I can put up with a lot. I mean, We've both been in the wrestling industry. We've heard, we've seen, we've done worse, but there comes a time that seriously, just you got to grow up a little bit.
This
and
one,
some of these are not it.
Here was actually. Let me take you back to their entrance, and I don't know if you can remember their entrance, but they come down. Max does his rap. He always hands off the microphone to Anthony Bowens. Anthony Bowens always leans back in the crowd. He throws up his two fingers. And then he says, you know, if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you or whatever, you know, his D-Generation X ripoff phrases. And it's usually that you have some type of a fan behind him that wants to then scissor his scissor.
Right.
Did you catch the girl that was like sitting behind him?
I didn't.
Oh, it was hilarious. She just looked at him like with this dead blank stare, like, what do you want? And no, I'm not going to do that. And then she took something. It was like, I don't know, an envelope or a little popcorn bag or something that was folded up. And she stuck that in between his fingers. He's holding it.
That's hilarious.
And then he turns and looks at it and hangs it to Billy Gunn, and Billy Gunn throws it down. Like, she was having none of it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And that is my feeling of the Acclaimed right now. I'm having none of it. I don't like the extreme vulgarity, because here's the thing. Max Caster, you're always going to get compared to John Cena. You come walking out and you try to do a rap. Hey, you want to use some innuendos? Great. Do some double entendres? Great. But when you can't be creative enough that you can get us thinking, especially when what you're trying to do is you're trying to come out and rap, and it's like, as somebody who loves rap music and has grown up listening to a lot of it, most rappers that are true lyricists, what they will wind up doing is they will say a word that has multiple meanings to it, and you can take it multiple different ways. You may think you know what they're meaning about it, but it could also mean this other thing. That's the best.
Right.
John Cena did that with so many different things. Max Caster does not do that.
Well, and I don't even remember who the rapper was, but you know, it was back in the late 90s, early 2000. There was a rapper that got interviewed one time, and they asked him why, you know, here he is with all these other rap artists, and you know, they're doing so much vulgarity and, you know, calling ladies nasty names and all this other stuff, but he doesn't. And his comment to this reporter was, anybody that has to use vulgarity to make a rhyme has zero talent. It takes somebody that has to do, who is like an English major, somebody who knows the English language and can use the English language and still puts it into a rap song that is truly talented. Yeah.
And there were a bunch like that back in the 90s. I mean, the first one that comes to mind for me was, you know, Will Smith. And part of that was just from the Eminem lyric of Will Smith don't got to cuss in his raps to sell records. Well, I do. And then he decided to cuss.
Right.
it might have been a Tribe Called Quest. They were another one from back there in the 90s that I don't remember them using any profanity in their stuff. And it's not to say that, hey, you can't take a cheap shot, when it comes to Max Caster doing that. If you want to take a cheap shot every now and then, fine. Even John Cena took the cheap shots.
Sure.
But that's all he's ever doing. And then the problem is because all he's doing is taking these cheap shots and they're not even clever anymore. What it winds up doing is it just makes him appear like he's just angry.
Correct.
And it's like you're supposed to be a good guy, a face, somebody that I want to cheer for, but you're just angry and bitter.
Yep.
And it's like, instead, pick on him, make fun of him, be snarky, be a smart aleck, do stuff like that. Be the Acclaimed that you were a couple years ago, even a year ago. That Acclaimed was so fun to watch. This Acclaimed, even Anthony Bowens, he's coming across just mean and angry. And it's like, at that point, you're going to be mean and angry. But if I'm going to look at somebody that's going to be mean and angry, sorry, I'm looking at Cage of Agony, and they're more believable as mean and angry. So.
Well, and Billy Gunn's the only one that truly understands that, you don't have to do the same thing over and over.
Right.
There's a time to yell. There's a time to get angry. There's a time to, have spit come out of your mouth when you're yelling at somebody.
Yep.
And then there's a time to be quiet. There's a time to talk softly. One of the most intimidating interviewers and promos to date is Jake Roberts. And Jake Roberts was calm and slow and deliberate on what he said. And he would look into that camera right at you and he would reach into your soul and turn around and make you go, I don't want to wrestle him.
Right.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yep. And there are a ton of guys that have been able to do that. And that's something that they don't do, that the Acclaim's not doing. It's just a direction they're going with them. Like, you guys were you were the tag champs and the 6-man champs. And it's like, now it's just like, when I was looking at it, it was like, I would rather see Cage of Agony be in a trios title run than the Acclaimed right now. And it's not because of Billy Gunn.
So is it wrong of me, the Gates of Agony or Cage of Agony, what is it called? Cage of Agony?
Cage of Agony when you put in Brian Cage. Otherwise, it's the Gates of Agony.
So is it wrong that the one gentleman who's only been wrestling for just a few years, the bigger of the two, is it bad? Hold on. Don't say his name. Don't say his name. Don't say his name. Because is it wrong that every time I see him, I think of the 1980s, early 90s blonde actress Téa Leoni, and that's the name that keeps coming to mind. I like him. Don't get me wrong. I think he's good for, especially for as many years as he's only been in. I think he's doing a phenomenal job.
He's doing great. I didn't know he's only been in a few years.
Yeah.
If that tells you how good he's doing, I would have thought he's been in 10 at least.
Listen to the AEW. What was the podcast with her and with Aubrey and Tony Schiavone that they did for a while on YouTube? Unrestricted.
Unrestricted, yeah.
Unrestricted. So they interviewed him on Unrestricted.
Okay.
And he was explaining that, he vaguely watched some wrestling a little bit, and he had lost his job at one point, and his wife looked at him and said, if you're going to do this, do it. This is the time to do it. And he said, okay. So they packed up, had a newborn baby, and they packed up and left and went and did it.
Nice.
And look where he's at now.
Yep. So he's good.
Good job.
He's good. Good job. We get into the pay-per-view. We had Roderick Strong versus Will Ospreay, our new international champion, Will Ospreay. We all predicted that. That was obvious. That's a hacksaw.
Let's talk about that match real quick. Man, they were hitting. And they were hitting hard. They look like that was probably one of the best matches I've seen Roderick Strong in a long time.
Long time.
And I know he was trained. He had some training from Dean Malenko, and it showed in this one.
Yes.
100%. And I'm not just saying because he pulled out the Texas Cloverleaf. I'm saying because you could see the wrestling style, the way he was going at it, the storytelling of the match itself. It reminded me so much of Dean Malenko wrestling. So
he pulled out the Texas Cloverleaf. So the Texas Cloverleaf showed up in, like, I think 3 different matches. Mm-hmm. And one of them looked good. Like, one of them looked right, and the others looked... And I think it was Tony Storm that had the only one that looked really good. I think Roderick Strong's, if I remember right, he did his different, where it was like he had his arms wrong. So it was like he was starting to go through with, like, I don't know, it was almost like a Texas Cloverleaf meets like a top wrist lock.
I think instead of coming under the leg, I think he had one arm
over and the other under.
I think so. Yeah, it was just a little off.
It looked a little off, and it was like, okay, that could work, but it was also when a camera angle went around on the backside, it was just the positioning was off enough. Those are the things that, as somebody, hey, Dean Malenko, like, I loved him. I loved the Texas Cloverleaf. I don't even know if you remember there towards the end of my wrestling time, I was doing the inverted cloverleaf. I didn't even know what to call it. It's what Rhea Ripley essentially does now, although she stands with them. I think I called it the top wrist leg lock because I had no idea what else to call it. But, like, that's how much I love the cloverleaf. So when I see it done wrong, it just takes me out of the match a little bit. But it didn't take very long for them to pull me right back into the match because it was a really good match.
I was just trying to look around and find my fanboy picture of me and Dean Malenko in Cincinnati. I got it here somewhere.
I don't know if I've got any pictures from Cincinnati.
I do. Yeah. I do. I got a lot of them. Back when we ended up going out to that club afterwards after the Brian Pillman Memorial Show. Yeah.
I remember we met Hardys on the street.
The Hardys and Lita, they were there. Yeah. Hugh Morris, Dean Malenko was there. Chris Kanyon, David Flair himself was there.
I do remember David Flair.
Yeah, there's a lot of people there.
Yeah, and that's because, if I remember right, didn't David Flair actually talk with us more than most of the others? It seems like that.
I think it was a toss-up. Him and Chris Kanyon both talked a lot. Chris Kanyon talked way too much, though.
Yeah. So, yes, that was a good match. Rather enjoyed it. I'm excited to see what's going to happen moving forward with the International Championship, especially with Will Ospreay. I mean, it's just,
you know, he's going to take that title. He's going to run. He's going to be an international. He's going to be good.
Oh yeah. It's going to get, it's going to appear in a lot of different promotions. He'll be doing with that what Jon Moxley is doing with the IWGP World. Taking it around, showing it off, helping to build up some of the prestige of it. Bang Bang Gang versus Death Triangle. How did you guys not predict this correctly? You decided to pick who you wanted rather than who you actually thought would win?
Yeah, I did. I went with my heart instead of my brain.
I mean, I get it. I popped huge when I saw Rey Fenix come back. Mm-hmm. And I want to see him back in the mix. But the only thing I don't like about the Bang Bang Gang is their name. I want Bullet Club Gold.
And see, I'm not... How do I say this? I like the Gun Club. I like...
Gun Club works.
I like Billy Gunn's kids. I think they have a lot of Billy style in their wrestling ability.
Are you going to tell me you don't like Jay White?
I like Billy Gunn's kids. I'm trying to like Jay White. I really am.
Amazing.
I get a lot of people like him, and I'm trying really hard to like him, but I'm not there yet. It's kind of like
Jay White's amazing.
So
and the fact that we got Juice Robinson back makes it even better.
That I got a kick out of. Even though I think Juice is like an idiot. But here's my thing. He's a fun idiot.
Exactly.
Jay White to me is like Brody King when he first came on. in the fact that there was just something about him I didn't like.
Okay.
But then there was that match that it clicked, and I'm like, okay, I dig it. I'm still waiting for that click with him.
Jay White, to me, he may be the best one in AEW that does that really slimy, kind of cheap, cheating heel that you just want to see get beat up. The only one that I think does it better than him is Christian Cage. Like, he's that undersized heel that he thinks that he's bigger than he is, and he thinks he's better than he is, only because he has people that back him up. And it's like, no, get me alone with you. You're not that big. And that's that type of heel energy that he does better than the rest. So much, I think that's part of the reason why some people just don't like him. Because it's like, is this really him? You know, to me, it was the MJF thing. Like, MJF was kind of doing some of that early on. Mm-hmm. Couldn't stand MJF. Didn't care how good of a match he had in the ring. Just could not stand him. Couldn't stand the personality. And then I don't know what happened where it was all of a sudden he kind of owned it. And then it's like, oh, okay. Now I'll buy in. I do think for a lot of people, there's something that Jay White's going to have to do to buy in. I was watching more of him in New Japan.
Right.
So I was catching some of that stuff because when I had first kind of learned about the Bullet Club, and that would have been with Finn Balor and Gallows and Anderson, and kind of hearing about that aspect of it, then it's like, oh, who else is in the Bullet Club? And then I start to find all of these other names of people that have been in the Bullet Club, and it's like, oh, well, now I want to know more about him. And as I'm learning all that, then the current rendition of the Bullet Club was, with Jay White being there. And it's like, all right. And that's probably part of the reason why I want them to be Bullet Club Gold. Or
for me right now, Jay White, he just reminds me of the skinny, scrawny kid in high school that talks so much smack.
Yeah.
But can't do anything.
Yeah. You just want to shut him up. He plays it so well.
And hey, I'm going to give a shout out. I honestly think TS Aggressor does a better finisher. Same move.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
TS did it better. But that's just me.
I could see that. Okay, so yes, that was that one. And yes, good to see Juice Robinson back. Very good match. And I think that the Gun Club, Colton and Austin, I think they're underrated in their in-ring ability.
I agree.
For guys that haven't been doing it very long, they sell better than 99% of the people in the business.
Austin is 100% his daddy's boy.
Yeah.
100%. The only thing he doesn't have is his daddy's height.
Correct.
But his build, his selling style, his everything, it's like a mini-me.
And if Austin... There's something about Austin that draws your attention to him more than Colton.
Correct.
And if it weren't for the fact that he's right next to Austin, you would say the exact same thing about Colton. Because watch him the next time they wrestle, try to focus on Colton a little bit more, and you'll be like, oh, it's the exact same thing.
The thing I like about Austin, though, is he takes the best of both sides of the New Age Outlaws. He pulls the Road Dogg in. Yeah. And he pulls the Billy Gunn in. And I love it. I love it.
It's so good. So, all right, we'll keep this rolling. Toni Storm versus Serena Deeb. It's a good match. I'm not sure if it was Hacksaw or... Yeah, it was Hacksaw.
I'll give it Hacksaw.
I had to think about it.
It's a slim Hacksaw, but it's a Hacksaw.
There were some things with Serena Deeb in there that it was like, meh, could have done without it. Did enjoy a little bit of that storyline with Mariah May threatening to throw in the towel. It was kind of a little callback to her match where Tony threw it in, but then Luther gets blamed for it, which builds up a little that tension. I'm starting to see how we're going to get some of the fracturing to set up Mariah versus Tony. I wasn't quite sure how they were going to do that, so I'm glad we're seeing a little glimpse of that.
I just hope they don't get rid of Timeless Tony Storm too soon.
No, do not get rid of Timeless Tony Storm.
They will eventually have to get rid of her because it'll eventually run its course.
Yes.
But there's so much more left. There's so much more left.
I hope they try to get every last dollar they can get out of her with Timeless.
Milk it. Yep.
So that was a good one. Orange Cassidy versus Trent Beretta. Another good match.
Yep. Hacksaw on that one. That was really good. I was wrong. I thought Trent Beretta was going to win that. He did not win that. Also, not super upset about it. And I think I might have even predicted that, or when I was doing the prediction, saying I'm not going to be upset either way. It was good. I also liked that it kind of did a follow-up from, I think it was Collision, that Rocky Romero was in the back and he was asking Trent, hey, after this is all, no matter who wins, loses, whatever, we've got a friendship here. Can we do something? And he's like, no, and don't ever interrupt me again. Right.
So that it was just like, and the fact that he just leaves and he's like, I'm done. And it was like, well, what do you mean you're done? Where are you going? What are you doing? I want to know now. Way to hook me thinking back on that. Speaking of Hook, Chris Jericho, Hook, Shibata. We all successfully predicted Hook or Jericho was going to win.
Can I just say that match was so... That's all I got to say. I didn't like it at all.
That was an Orange Cassidy match for me.
Nah.
And the redeeming qualities of it was Jericho and Shibata and Big Bill. And
I will say this. The scariest moment of the whole night was not Anarchy in the arena.
No.
It was not lighting people on fire.
Nope.
It was not super kicking thumbtacks into somebody's face.
Nope.
It was Big Bill.
T-bone.
Huh?
A T-bone suplex from the apron through a table.
Close from dying.
Almost impaled him. And
I saw that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
When I mentioned earlier, you fly too close to the sun, you're going to get burned. That was what was in my mind when I first said that. When you put in somebody who is not trained enough for things. He is not trained enough for that. Can he do a T-bone? Yes. Can he do a good T-bone? Yes. Can he do good suplexes? Yes. Can he do it through a table? No. Does he have the control over a T-bone suplex to know where to throw a guy that is twice his size? Absolutely not. Nope. We've seen that in all of his other matches with regular T-bone suplexes. He tosses a guy close to the turnbuckle or next to the ropes, and it's like you're not dropping him in the center of the ring where you should be. You don't have your ring positioning down. You haven't learned that well enough yet. And I am thankful that Big Bill survived.
And did you see Bill's reaction after he landed? As
soon as he sat up and saw it right there.
Sat up and saw it and then realized, oh, that just saved my life.
Yeah.
Because he almost, his whole career and potentially his whole life could have been over a half a centimeter out of the other direction. It was so terrifying.
To me, agreed. Scariest moment of the night. Yep. And for what? Like the way that they were positioned, it's like the table is in the wrong position if you're going to be trying to do that. You're in the wrong position if you're going to be trying to do that. It's like, no, just no for any of it.
Yep. Like
that's just, I don't know. And a T-bone is, a T-bone's not an easy suplex to receive. Like, it's when you're going over in a T-bone, you've kind of got to trust the guy to throw you because he's got your shoulder, which means one of your arms is completely trapped, and he's grabbed your leg. And you're already lifted up and you're on your tippy toes of your other. So you've got no control. I can't direct where I'm going. The only thing I can do is throw one arm and hope that I do more of a left shoulder roll. And hope the guy can actually toss me correctly. But taking, it's hard. You don't have any control of that. It's not like a body slam where stand there, I'll body slam myself.
And this goes back to, Taz. I love Taz.
Yeah.
And Taz could have pulled that off.
Correct.
And Taz would have pulled it off perfectly.
And Taz has pulled it off perfectly.
But the difference is Taz had a whole lot more years under his belt before he turned around and started being put into garbage matches and having to put the people through tables.
Yep.
Hook is another, for me right now, Hook is another Jade Cargill. Go ahead, send him to the Fed. Send him there. Keep him in NXT. Let Shawn Michaels super kick some knowledge into his head or something.
Yep. He needs something. Moxley versus Takeshita in the Eliminator match.
And Moxley ended up hurting his arm the night before.
Yep.
For me, it was an Orange Cassidy. I mean, it was almost a hacksaw. I mean, it was nothing special for me. It was a John Moxley match. This sounds kind of ironic, but it was a hurt John Moxley match. That's all it was. I don't know how else to put it.
It was a good match. There were enough near falls in there that towards the end, I really had no idea what was going to happen.
Right.
Obviously, for prediction wise, I was thankful that Moxley won. But yeah, I wasn't quite sure how they were going to do it with Takeshita there. It was good. Who
did I pick?
You picked Moxley, so you got that one right as well. Corey was the one that went with Takeshita and got it wrong, but hey, it could have went either way. I didn't know. Yep. It was just not quite sure. That got us to Adam Copeland versus Malachi Black. When we made the predictions last week, we all picked Malachi Black. After seeing the promo that he cut on Collision, Corey sent in the chat and he's like, hey, can I change it up? I'd like to go with Copeland now, especially after we haven't watched any of this week's AEW before making our predictions. We were both fine with it. And
then I watched and I'm like,
yeah, I had watched it. You were watching it. We were both kind of like, oh man, this could really go either way right now. Yep. But we held tight. We went with Malachi. We both took an L on that one. That was a really good match.
It was. A few unnecessary things, but it was still a good match.
A few unnecessary things. I'm not sure why we need everything to be wrapped in barbed wire. Even though it was a barbed wire steel cage match, but still, not quite sure why we need all that.
Yeah, I mean, you had tables wrapped in barbed wire, you had bats wrapped in barbed wire, you had barbed wire wrapped in barbed wire.
The thing that probably bothered me the most about it is the barbed wire crown. Because to me, it's just a sacred image. And I've never liked when they go, because to me, that's one of the cheapest forms of heat that you're ever going to be able to get. And to me, it's not even cheap heat. It's not like Mick Foley walking into a town and giving a thumbs up and announcing your city's name.
It's great to be in Des Moines.
That's cheap heat. When I see somebody pull out any type of like a crown or do some type of religious symbolism, especially from Christianity, to where it kind of comes off half mocking, that's just lazy.
I mean, they even held him at one point almost like a crucifix. Yeah.
To me, it just becomes lazy. It's unnecessary. It didn't need, like, if you were going to do that, it should at least add to the match in some capacity. This didn't add in any way.
The only thing it did was it gave the opportunity, the way they did it, you know, when they took the spool of barbed wire and they stabbed it right into the mat.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of a sign to Gangrel underneath saying, hey, this is the corner I want you to come out of.
Right.
And that gave them time to know, okay, this is where the spool's stabbed. We're going to go to that just opposite corner. And I think it was kind of a time frame, give them time to turn around and cut the mat and have Gangrel come out of the floor of the ring, that type of thing. I think that's the only reason they did it. I don't think it was
time.
Correct. I don't think it was meant as a borderline sacrilegious type of insult or anything like that. I think it just happened that way.
Yeah. I don't know as it was necessarily aimed that direction. I obviously took it that direction, but hey, pastor, what am I going to do? In the same way that I kind of got upset when the Elite are hanging Darby, because it's just like wrong. Like, you don't need it. It doesn't do anything. But that match was a good match. I also like unnecessary wrapping him to the table with barbed wire, and at the same time, brilliant. Because it's like, you're not going to move from there. And then at the same time, I understand why you're not doing a splash on top of him, because then it's exposed abdomen on exposed abdomen with wrapped in barbed wire. Get that.
But you would have just had stitches instead of surgery.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That was a hacksaw, though.
It was a hacksaw. Willow Nightingale versus Mercedes Moné. Good to see Mercedes in her debut.
Was it really?
So that match to me is one of those that it kind of epitomizes the saying that it really doesn't matter what happens in between as long as you have a good beginning and a good end. They had a good beginning. Don't really matter what was in the middle, because the end was bad.
End was horrible.
She is way too small to be doing a big man move like that.
Yep.
That it showed me that she has little man complex, and wants to be seen as being bigger and tougher than she actually is. You know what? She's got a great, what is it, like the Meteora off the top, like that double knee that she does is great. Yes, I know other people.
So many people doing it. Yeah,
I get it. It still looks great. And you were a fan of Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero didn't really do big men moves, and yet he was one of the most believable world champions there was. So take a page out of his book and do something else.
So for me, for that match, it showed me two things. Number one, it showed they had a direction for Willow Nightingale and Statlander. And they wanted to do that before, but it just wasn't the right time.
Right.
This gave them an opportunity to do that swerve, that storyline.
Yep.
The other thing that it proved to me was I would almost be willing to bet money that somewhere in that hundreds of thousands of dollar contract, if not borderline millions of dollar contract with Mercedes money,
10 mil, I
from
think,
Tony Khan, I guarantee you somewhere in there it said that she can't lose any of her matches for a certain amount of time.
So,
and
Corey
it just so happened then.
Corey brought up an interesting thing, because he and I correctly predicted Mercedes Moné. You went with Willow Nightingale on that. I think that was another situation of you predicting what you wanted to happen rather than what you thought would actually happen.
It was.
And it was one of the few times that Corey actually predicted what he thought would happen rather than what he wanted to happen. But he had brought up an interesting question, and he said, out of all of the names, the big names that AEW has brought in, have any of them lost their debut match? And
No.
I couldn't think of one, and I tried looking it up. And hey, if somebody's listening to this and wants to let us know of one that did lose it, please do. Can
Got
you think
one.
of one?
JD Drake.
I said big name.
Oh.
Yeah. The only one I could say that didn't win their debut, also didn't lose it, and that was Bryan Danielson, because his debut match was him against Kenny Omega, and it went to a 30-minute time limit draw.
Yeah.
And what a way to debut Bryan Danielson against Kenny Omega, and arguably Bryan Danielson's best match in AEW. It's like, and you protect both guys because it's a draw.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, I knew they were going to do this, especially with them dropping reportedly, allegedly $10 million on like a 5-year contract or something for Mercedes to make her the highest paid female pro wrestler.
I'll be honest with you. I was really disappointed in the match. For me, it's at least one Batista. I won't give it double thumbs, but it's a one Batista. I didn't like it. It didn't keep my attention.
Yeah.
I was excited for it when she first came in, but then her promos were lackluster. Her promos just were missing something. I think Willow did a better job doing promos than Mercedes did. When it came to the signing, it got me a little bit more excited because, I love that ending. In fact, I said it on the podcast. Yeah. I thought that was great.
Yep.
This one, they lost me within the first couple of minutes, and they never got me back.
And see, they held me for most of it. Like Willow doing the doctor bomb on the apron. I was like,
it looked painful.
I was like, owie. And then there was like a Meteora to the outside. And there was enough stuff that they did that it kept me in it. It kept me entertained. To me, Mercedes just needs a better finisher. I don't know who told her to do that. That had to have been when she's planning on working in Japan, where everybody is smaller than her. Like, Go ahead and do that. But now you're back in the States and you're smaller than everybody else. Like, Julia Hart may be the only one that's smaller than you that you could pull that off with. And we saw how you did it to Julia Hart, and it even didn't look that great when you did it to her. And I thought she took it pretty well. To me, it's just, it's somebody doing something that is way too complicated and unnecessary. Let her do a version of like Ospreay's Hidden Blade. Something.
Yeah. Let
her go with, the career ender and do a double drop kick to the back of the neck. Is that too soon? Too soon on Saraya? Too soon?
A little too quick. Too quick.
Hey, it's believable.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it was an Orange Cassidy for me. It could have been better. It should have been better. Oh well. Swerve versus Christian Cage. I love Christian.
Me too.
I love Swerve.
Christian plays arguably one of the best heels ever.
Period.
Ever. Yeah. I mean, there's Ric Flair, there's Christian Cage, there's MJF's up in there. I don't know. It's hard to beat Christian Cage. And the thing is, Christian will pull out realistic moments that everybody thinks, oh, that was below the belt.
Right.
But it's not crossing that line. It's not the vulgarity that some of the others is.
There you go. I think it crosses the line, but not with vulgarity.
I did.
What Christian does is what Brian Pillman used to do back in the Attitude. The loose cannon Brian Pillman, he did that stuff. Didn't need the vulgarity, but it was like, you just believe that Brian Pillman was a psycho. And you had no idea what he was going to do. With Christian, you fully believe that he has no moral bone in his body. And he truly is a supreme narcissist. And at that point, it's just like, everything he says, I don't know why I didn't expect him to say that, because I should have expected. I should expect the worst possible thing to come out of that guy's mouth. And it's not vulgar, but at the same time, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
like, no, you don't say that. You don't do that. And yes, it's always too soon. No matter what you were saying, Christian, it's always too soon.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like you said, I don't know if there's anyone better. I don't believe there's anybody better in the business right now.
And Swerve is great. I love Swerve as a champion. Swerve can work almost anybody, as far as I'm concerned. Yep. That match, I gave it a hacksaw for me. I liked it.
Yes, it was a really good match. It's a high Orange Cassidy, low hacksaw. The only thing I wish they didn't do, and it's just because I know how good of a worker Christian is, it's like, you don't need the whole entourage out there to be constantly interjecting into the match. We know you're that good.
But they used that into the angle with sending everybody away that I thought was great. And, okay, Prince Nana, love Prince Nana. He is so entertaining.
Oh, you don't know
how
fun
it
was
to begin with.
You don't know how fun it was to have Corey here watching the pay-per-view and to hear him about every 30 seconds go off about Prince Nana and how he just can't stand it. And every time he does it, I'm just over. It was so much fun. I love Prince Nana. So
I love so far the best Prince Nana thing that I've ever seen was the one last week. You know, when Christian Cage is running away from Swerve and he gets over the way out. He gets in the car and here Prince Nana, he's sitting in the car and he's eating something. And I'm like, yes, I lost it. I'm like, that's so great.
Good. So that's good. Great. And the contrast, the juxtaposition between Swerve, just his presence, the slow, methodical walk that he has, and then Prince Nana just being goofy and dancing the whole time. It's corny thing. Yeah. I love it.
Love it.
Yep. Good.
It's great.
Good.
It's great.
All right. And then we finished out the night with the Elite versus FTR, Bryan Danielson, and Darby Allin in Anarchy in the Arena. This might be my favorite Anarchy in the Arena they've had to date. I loved it. I loved this match.
It was good. I don't think it was the best Anarchy in the Arena, but it was good. It was good.
So one of the things they did that they started to do, and I was like, oh, if you do this, this would be amazing. When they did the 4 screens, and it was like, you're going to follow everybody around. Now, the bad part was they had like 2 cameras on each guy, so you just get 2 different camera angles. But it would have been cool if they had 1 camera on each of the pairings. Correct. And then keep going back to that. That is a brilliant way of doing a match like that. And if WWE didn't take note of that, I will be shocked.
Right.
I would be thoroughly shocked, because what WWE will do is they will see that and they will make it 10 times better than what AEW did. Yep.
Now, I will say this. You asked me what one of my favorite moments in the PLE was, and I said it was, Jade Cargill screw up with her kip up.
Right.
One of my favorite moments, not my favorite match, but one of my favorite moments in the PPV and the pay-per-view for AEW was, shut that music off. It's costing me $200,000 every time you play it. I lost it.
Yeah.
I'm like, or $2,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah, 200 grand.
Like, yeah. Oh, that was so, and then the commentary afterwards was like, he might not be too far off.
It's probably about right.
But no, I love it.
It was so good because what they started off, I don't even remember who's. Oh, it was Darby Allin's music at first that was still playing, right. And then the Bucks told him, no, play the best wrestling theme music there is, ours. And then Bryan Danielson tells him to shut it off because you're going to play the best wrestling. And as soon as he said the best wrestling entrance, I was like, it's the final countdown. Yep. And it hit, and I marked out so bad. And Corey's over in the recliner, and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, it's the final countdown.
The final countdown. Wasn't that Hype's theme music? Or what did Hype have?
No, Hype had the You're the Best around from
right,
Karate Kid, wasn't it?
Yep.
No, it was another good one. Beautiful Brent Fillmore, Final Countdown.
There you go. Yeah.
Or was it Beautiful Brent Fillmore or was it Dirty Sanchez?
No, it was Beautiful Brent Fillmore.
Okay. Yeah. Couldn't remember which version. Yeah, that was fun. I got a kick out of it. There were some pretty cool spots in there. I got a kick out of seeing Darby do the coffin drop off of like the second level like tunnel. And didn't he do coffin drop off that?
Yeah, in the stands. In the stands.
Yeah, in the stands.
Yeah, yep.
Seeing that one. The maybe the big mistake was when they cut to Jack Perry supposedly running over Darby Allin, and we're just supposed to take your word for it.
Right.
I was like, come on, WWE was able to do this back in the 90s. You just do a camera cut and you put in like a pre-recorded footage into the live thing. It's not that hard. But yeah, it was just a weird thing. I got how they set it up and everything.
But I thought for sure when they grabbed Tony Khan from the back and they brought him out, I'm like, oh, Tony's going to do it. He's going to have something to do with this finish. Because I called it before our predictions.
Yeah.
And I made the comment. I thought that Tony Khan, because it's AEW, he's going to do something that's going to cost him the match, and AEW is going to win it.
Yep.
And, I thought when he came out, I'm like, here it is. Here it is. Pride's going to come. Here it is. And then all of a sudden he didn't. And I'm like, okay.
And when he didn't, I was like, good. Because this is like who you have said that you are. You don't want the eyeballs to be on you. You don't want to take up their airtime. The only time you've said you've interjected is when you're trying to do an announcement or something like that.
Right.
And then this one, it made sense to have him in the storyline because of the whole Jack Perry thing, and I got it. So I was glad that they didn't have it. I also thought it was a brilliant way of setting up Jack Perry, to be set on fire by having Darby dunk him in that tank. So what we thought was ice water, that gives them the plausibility to put on that fire retardant gel. And it was like brilliant. Completely unnecessary. The match could have went on without that, and it didn't really add to it. But at the same time, you wanted to do it because you wanted to do it. And hey, you did it.
You did it.
At least you didn't yell broken or real glass into the camera or anything.
It's real fire.
Yeah. All in all, good match.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. The only thing I didn't really like was just hanging him upside down. That was the one thing, because it was just
and Big Bill almost dying.
And Big Bill almost dying. Yeah. But yeah, the way that panned out. So for King and Queen of the Ring, I got 5 right. You guys got 4. So that made me the king going into that one. And then at Double or Nothing, you got 7 correct. Corey got 8 correct. I got 9 correct. I remain king of predictions. And that will lead us up until, we've probably got 4 weeks in the next pay-per-view. Clash of the Castle, I think.
June 30th. It's like the end of June.
I think it's middle of June is that one, like 13th, I was thinking, or something like that.
Oh, end of June is the Forbidden Door.
Forbidden Door's end of June. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember Clash of Castle. It's like, Clash of Castle's in the middle of June, and then Forbidden Door's at the end of the June. And then we get July is
Money in the Bank.
August is SummerSlam and
All Out
and All In.
Are they going to do that back-to-back weeks again?
I don't know.
I hope not. That hurt. That hurt a little bit.
Yeah, I hope
because those pay-per-views we're still paying for, so that hurt. Now, hey, AEW, just a shout out, guys. If you want to turn around and sponsor wrestling related, we'll be more than happy to continue helping promote AEW wrestling for the measly low fee of every pay-per-view.
Right.
We're good with that.
A couple PLEs or PPVs.
Maybe some backstage passes when you all get in so we can turn around and talk with some of the guys that we used to know and, say, how you been?
Yep.
Have Billy yell at me again. For
anything else coming up or that you saw of that is of note that we didn't talk about?
Braun Breaker going psycho.
Goldberg 2.0.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know what they're doing with the was it Kiana James? I don't know what they're doing with her. Every time Braun Breaker comes by, then he leaves and she shows up. I don't know. I do want to make a comment. I love, just like Tony Storm, I love R-Truth. And last night, the whole ice cream truck and, Miz going, why did you have me dressed in all in white? Oh, you got to represent your favorite flavor, Miz. Vanilla. So that would make you strawberry.
Yeah.
What were you going to say? And then New Day's like, yeah, what were you going to say? Strawberry. That's what I was going to say, strawberry.
Right.
And then at the end of it, and then I guess Karrion Kross came in and starts talking about the New Day and everything.
Yeah.
And then as Karrion Kross starts walking away, Xavier Woods looks at Kofi and says, he wasn't going to say strawberry. And Kofi's like, no, he wasn't. And it was so good.
Yep.
It was so good. Their writing has been so good on those promos.
They have been. They've been doing a great job. A lot more flexibility over there in the Fed. Good to see people taking chances. Yeah, it's been enjoyable.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right, well, that's all we got for you this week. If you guys have got any topics you want us to discuss, or you got any hot takes, or you just don't like our hot takes, let us know in the comments below. Until next time, see ya.